I'm Katie Couric. Tonight, London on edge over a bomb plot that could have killed hundreds. Two Mercedes packed with explosives set to go off in one of the city's busiest districts.
If that had gone off, glass, everything, we wouldn't be alive today.
How tragedy was averted there and what's being done to deal with similar threats here. The waiting's over. Apple lifts the shroud of secrecy as the first customers get their hands on the iPhone. Plus, they have the same first name and a rivalry second to none. Two young chess mates tonight on Assignment America.
You guys like each other? Okay, next question.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Hello, everyone. It could have been a major disaster with hundreds of casualties, but today, a plot to set off two separate car bombs in a busy part of London was foiled. One of the cars was parked just steps away from a crowded nightclub near Piccadilly Circus, and late today, police said a second car, one that was parked illegally near Trafalgar Square and towed to a location near Hyde Park, was also rigged to explode. We have two reports including what this means for security here in this country, but we begin with the very latest from London with Richard Roth.
Advance intelligence didn't prevent disaster here, vigilance did. A passing ambulance crew saw smoke or vapor coming from this Mercedes parked outside a London nightclub and called police, who defused a bomb built of nails, propane gas tanks, and 15 gallons of gasoline. It was 1:30 on Ladies' Night at the Tiger Club, where the dance floor has a window onto the street.
All I kept thinking, thank God there must have been an angel on my shoulders, because if that had gone off, glass, everything, we wouldn't be alive today.
London woke up to a security clampdown, roadblocks and a fingertip search of tourist landmarks in case another bomb was planted nearby. And this afternoon they found one in a car that had been parked around the corner from the nightclub. It had been ticketed and towed overnight 1.5 miles to Hyde Park, where the smell of gas fumes raised suspicion. It's clearly linked, police said, to the first car bomb.
It is obvious that if the device had detonated, there could have been significant injury or loss of life.
On British TV, an explosives expert demonstrated that.
I am simulating one of the possible configurations of the London bomb. That is to say, assuming that the gas cylinder contained gas.
There'll be clues from the cars police are now examining, but a key to finding the bombers now may be in what was caught on camera. This city, like most of this country, is blanketed by closed-circuit TV. Authorities started poring over video, looking for clues to help them track down whoever left the bomb. Security video helped track the movements of suicide bombers almost exactly 2 years ago, but not until after their attack on London's transit system, which killed 52 people. Now Britain's camera network is being used to try and find a bomber or bombers and to prevent an attack.
London at 2 o'clock in the morning is full of surveillance cameras. This person will have been caught on camera at least 200 times, coming in from any of the suburbs into the very centre of the city.
Suspects include Al-Qaeda or a homegrown terror cell. Police insist they've reached no conclusions yet. The British are left with the unsettling knowledge bombers are still at large, or as one official put it, the terror threat is real and enduring. Richard Roth, CBS News, London.
This is Bob Orr in Washington. Across America, police stepped up patrols and pulled over cars as investigators searched for links between the London scare and potential plots against the U.S. And while officials here say there is no current credible terror threat facing America, they are worried the type of explosive device found in London could be an emerging weapon of choice for homegrown terrorists. It's a low-tech bomb constructed out of commonly available materials, gasoline, propane, and nails. A device that's easy to build, conceal, and transport. It can be triggered by a cell phone.
There are not many secrets anymore as far as how to make devices, how to build these devices. This information is on the internet. It's readily available.
What's worse, there is no technology, no sensors that can find them. And unless police get a tip or get lucky in a traffic stop, gasoline bombs are virtually undetectable. They've been used by terrorists before. 2 Lebanese students were arrested in 2006 after placing suitcases containing gasoline bombs aboard 2 trains in Germany. And the al-Qaeda operative who took these surveillance pictures of New York financial centers planned to use a gasoline-powered car bomb to blow up the Citicorp building in Manhattan and various other buildings in London. In fact, that terrorist, Diran Barat, wrote this bomb-making how-to manual, a sort of terrorism for dummies, detailing the effectiveness of a gasoline bomb, saying it's able to explode with good force and it can be loaded with nails to further maximize the damage caused. Those previous plots in Germany, New York, and the UK all failed. But security experts say today's London scare sends a chilling message that terrorists, whether they be al-Qaeda or homegrown cells, have embraced this easy but deadly new tactic.
It was just a matter of time. In fact, we have been lucky so far that we have not had one of these devices go off in the United States.
U.S. officials say they are not raising the nation's terror threat level, but the FBI now has issued a nationwide alert, warning police and citizens to watch for suspicious cars and be extra vigilant over the upcoming July 4th holiday. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
John Brennan is the CBS News Homeland Security analyst and the former head of the National Counterterrorism Center. First off, John, what strikes you the most about these latest attempts?
Well, there are several noteworthy aspects of it, Katie. First of all, the choice of Mercedes vehicles. I think this is intentional on the part of the individuals who are carrying this out as a way not to raise suspicion in a rather upscale portion of London. Rather than go for a large truck bomb and maybe with large amounts of fertilizer in it, they've chosen to go low-tech and also to use a delivery mechanism, Mercedes, that they can easily get into that area. Also, this is not a suicide attack. It was going to be remotely detonated, at least from the earlier reports. So therefore, these operatives are still out there and they wanted to live another day to carry out additional attacks. Also then the timing, it is on the eve of the 2-year anniversary. Wimbledon is also taking place right now in London, and so therefore it's a large number of tourists, including American tourists there.
Meanwhile, why do you think something like this has not happened here?
Well, I think since 9/11 there have been a tremendous amount of effort that have been sort of undertaken by the federal authorities as well as state and local officials to put in place those measures and safeguards that are going to be able to detect these types of operations early on. Unfortunately, the British were not able to detect it before it actually moved to the execution stage. But here in the United States, there has been increasing collaboration among federal, state, and local officials. New York Police Department is a good example of an organization that has really moved to try to understand the nature of the threat and then preemptively take measures to stop it from moving to that execution phase.
London is crawling, as we saw with security cameras. Do we need even more of those in this country?
Well, I think there's a fair amount of surveillance and security cameras that exist right now. And I think that's one way to, after the type of attack that's going to be taking place, to see who is responsible for it.
And certainly we see that there's no substitute for human intelligence and vigilance on the ground, right?
Absolutely. You need those tip-off from those individuals who are going to see something and then take steps to alert authorities.
All right, John Brennan, thank you. And this reminder, for up-to-the-minute coverage, you can go to our website at cbsnews.com and click on London Terror Plot. In other news, a setback for the White House today when the Supreme Court reversed itself and agreed to hear appeals from some of the terror suspects being held at Guantanamo Bay. As Wyatt Andrews reports, this sets the stage for a showdown between the justices and the Bush administration.
Since the day Guantanamo opened, the Bush administration has called these detainees the worst of the worst American enemies who do not deserve access to the U.S. courts. Now, in a stunning about-face, the Supreme Court, after saying no just last April, has agreed to hear the case of 15 Gitmo prisoners who claim the constitutional right to challenge their detentions.
This is a huge day where the Supreme Court is standing up and saying...
Tom Wilner, an attorney for the prisoners, says the court is finally confronting the legal black hole of Guantanamo. Of the 375 detainees, only 10 have been charged with a crime, and the evidence against the rest, Wilner says, can be farcical.
The government has admitted that most of the evidence is simply second or third-hand hearsay, but for many people, there is no evidence.
For example, one affidavit filed by Army Colonel Stephen Abraham, a Guantanamo officer assigned to collect the evidence, said much of it lacked even the most fundamental earmarks of objectively credible evidence.
We already know that a tremendous number of these men are guilty of nothing.
This about face is even more remarkable because the White House has asked for latitude over the detainees, and Congress has passed a law stripping the court of jurisdiction. In other words, both other branches of government have told the court to lay off Guantanamo, and today the Supreme Court said no. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News at the Supreme Court.
There's more CBS News ahead. Coming up later, check out these mates. You may look at the game a whole new way when you hear their story. And up next, what happened to diversity? Why some of America's public schools are becoming segregated all over again. A federal judge in Mississippi ruled today that a Democratic committee there discriminated against white voters and white candidates in the way it counted absentee ballots in a 2003 election. The case marks the first time the federal government has used the 1965 Voting Rights Act to allege discrimination on behalf of white voters. This a day after the Supreme Court limited the way race can be used to integrate public schools. That decision has administrators around the country wondering what's next for their districts. One possible clue may be found in Charlotte, North Carolina. Here's our national correspondent, Byron Pitts.
Hi, Parker!
Parents like Pamela Grundy watched as busing based on race came to an end in Charlotte 6 years ago, and something called the Choice Plan started.
Well, under the Choice Plan, those who could put their kids very quickly into suburban areas.
Right away?
Right away.
Busing ended and people moved their kids right away?
Yes, yes. Busing ended. There was a whole new system. Everybody was reassigned.
That meant wealthier families moved their children to well-performing schools, and poorer families, mostly black and Latino, stayed where they were, crammed into low-performing schools where test scores have plummeted. Educators like John Modest call it the resegregation of America's public schools, but this time segregation based on class.
I think you saw some white flight and some bright flight.
I'm sorry, say it again. What kind of flight?
White flight and bright flight, where the black middle class folks are leaving too from the schools.
White folk going one direction fast out of town.
And bright
middle
flight.
Class black folks.
Yeah, they're going too.
Right behind.
Yeah.
Forced school integration programs peaked in 1980. Since then, it has dropped across the country. School districts in North Carolina, Nevada, Delaware, and Wisconsin have seen the sharpest declines.
Our writing scores improved by 10. Did you hear me?
John Modest is the principal of West Charlotte High School.
We have been deemed a low-performing school by the state, but we're improving.
In the 1970s, West Charlotte was a national model for school integration, 40% black, 60% white. Today, it's 88% black, 1% white.
It's been a blessing for our family.
It happened in part because families like Lori Carter's decided to invest in homes around schools with great reputations. One problem, a lot of families did the same.
The concern in this part of town is overcrowding. The concern in the urban part of town is the needs that those students have. I think the whole idea of forcing integrated schools isn't necessarily going to increase or better the quality of the education.
Remember Pam Grundy? Unlike other parents with means, she didn't move and is keeping her child Parker in a predominantly black school with modest test scores.
We didn't want to be part of the problem. We wanted to try to be part of an effort to improve things for kids at that school.
Forgive me, question, parent to parent. Is that courageous or is that foolish?
We looked at it and we said, this is a good school that needs some help, and we think we can give it that help. And so that's why we made the decision. And we wanted Parker to go to school in the real world.
And with yesterday's Supreme Court decision, a different world that looks a lot like the old one. Byron Pitts, CBS News, Charlotte, North Carolina.
And some sad news tonight. Longtime movie and entertainment critic Joel Siegel died today in New York City after a long battle with colon cancer. Starting on local TV in New York in the 70s and then on ABC's Good Morning America for the past 26 years, Joel had boundless enthusiasm for his work, his family, and his friends. Joel Siegel died barely a week shy of his 64th birthday, and he was a wonderful man. Still ahead, iFriday's here, why Apple is betting a little mystery will bring up big numbers for their iPhone sales. If you're desperately seeking an iPhone, you're probably getting a busy signal. Today, thousands of trendsetters are finally getting the chance to buy the most hyped cell phone in history. In New York City, the doors opened at the Apple Store a little while ago. The company expects to sell 10 million iPhones in 2 years, thanks to some clever marketing buzz. Here's Daniel Seberg.
With the shroud of secrecy and security, you'd think they were protecting technology's holy grail.
You're not to open the box.
AT&T is the exclusive carrier, and this is one of their warehouses. But they asked us not to disclose the location and wouldn't tell us which, if any, of these boxes actually have iPhones in them. Over in a retail store, employees scurried to prepare for what they're calling iFriday.
A lot of things we don't even know yet, right? So the security's been pretty tight.
At last-minute meetings in this AT&T war room, even management was empty-handed.
Anybody here want a device? Anybody here have a device? No. Yeah, neither do I.
Neither AT&T nor Apple make any apologies for the secrecy. In fact, it was the plan all along.
We both agreed that this secrecy was necessary for us to really do the right things. And as you can tell from the things you've seen on the device and the buzz we've gotten, I think we've done the right things.
The two companies are betting all that buzz will drive demand, in turn creating more demand. The bottom line, less money spent on traditional advertising, same great results.
Even though Apple spent only $40 million on the iPhone marketing, the buzz and the intention is probably worth $500 million, so they've really capitalized on the media and the marketing side of this.
And even small inroads into the mobile phone market translate into a huge amount of money.
Assuming Apple generates only 4% of the overall global mobile phone market, that would be $15 billion in sales in 2009.
And that, Munster believes, could help almost double Apple's revenue in just 2 years. Apple's stock is already soaring, up 43% since the official announcement in January. Now, the question is whether the buildup will appeal to more than those just lining up. Daniel Seberg, CBS News, New York.
Up next, Fernando versus Fernando, the showdown at the chessboard on Assignment America. We leave you tonight with a story that will have you seeing double. Two champions with remarkably similar stories. Here's Steve Hartman with tonight's Assignment America.
At the Texas State Championship, after 2 days and nearly 200 competitors, it's now down to the final pairing. Young Mr. Mendez here and young Mr. Spada, two fourth graders with a lot in common.
My toughest chess competitor is...
Him.
When I grow up, I want to be...
A lawyer.
My first name is...
Fernando.
I live in...
Brownsville, Texas.
If I couldn't play chess, I would...
Be bored. Die.
They're known on the circuit simply as the Fernandos.
I beat Fernando Spada.
The kids have been arch rivals since kindergarten.
I got first place 2 times in a row.
Last year, they tied as national champs in their age division.
It's a huge coincidence.
Kind of. See, even though Brownsville is in the second poorest county in the nation, it's actually known for producing chess champs.
In a lot of areas, chess is considered maybe sort of a nerdish activity, and in Brownsville, chess is the cool thing to do.
Russell Harwood is the chess program director at the University of Texas, Brownsville. And he says it all started in 1989 when a school teacher named J.J. Wahardo introduced the game to his classroom as a motivational tool. Within a couple years, those kids had won state, and soon it seemed like every kid in town was into chess. Most especially these two, who mean business.
You guys like each other? Okay, next question.
So they may not be on each other's speed dial, but they've sure gotten used to each other's company across the chessboard. Back at the championships, it's a familiar scene. Fernando versus Fernando in a tense 2-hour match. In the end, it was Fernando Mendez who won this time.
I want your autograph.
Fernando Spada was dejected, but far from bitter.
Do you ever wish you just got amnesia and forgot how to play chess?
No. Because if not, there would be no point of me playing chess. Nobody would give me any real competition.
Plus, in the end, they're both going to be winners. The University of Texas Brownsville has already offered them both full scholarships, which means they're going to be together for a long time to come, like it or not.
Shake hands. Shake hands. Now give each other a hug.
Steve Hartman, CBS News, Brownsville, Texas.
Go Fernando and Fernando. Next Friday, we'll be re-airing one of Steve's favorite stories about two towns who were involved in their own Cold War. They're actually fighting over who invented the ice cream sundae. And if you'd like to suggest a story for Steve, go to cbsnews.com and click on Assignment America.
Tonight's Assignment America segment is sponsored by ExxonMobil, taking on the world's toughest energy challenges.
That's the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you next week.